This Easy Gap video series is brought to you by Chico State's Colleges of Natural Sciences and Agriculture and the Center for Healthy Communities, and is partially funded by the CSU Agricultural Research Institute. This video is Water Source and Use. Farmers feed this country. You know the hard work that goes into this job day after day. You also know that you have a responsibility to the health of your community. Safe irrigation water is good for crops, good for people, and it's good for business. This video applies to water that is used during growing activities for direct water application methods. This video does not apply to sprouts. For water used in any manner that directly contacts produce during or after harvest activities, refer to the crop handling video. In this video, we'll talk about the importance of using safe irrigation water on crops. Next, we'll identify different sources of irrigation water and sources of water contamination. Then, we will talk about ways to maintain your water system. Finally, we'll demonstrate how to collect a water sample. There are 6 food safety documents that you will see used in this video. You can click on the links on the website to access the documents yourself. At the end of the video, we'll show you how they fit into your on-farm food safety plan. Importance of water safety. Many foodborne illness outbreaks have been linked to contaminated water. Bacteria and other hazards can get into irrigation or processing water and then contaminate the produce that consumers eat raw. You can stop these outbreaks by detecting and preventing water contamination. Sources of irrigation water. There are 3 main types of water used for irrigation: municipal water, groundwater, and surface water. Municipal water is the safest water to use for irrigation. Groundwater is water from sources such as wells. Water from surface sources such as rivers, canals, ditches, ponds, or other open-flowing water systems may carry more of a risk for contamination than closed water sources such as wells. During times of storms, the amount of bacteria and other contaminants in surface water is higher than normal, and you should be careful when using this water for irrigation. Before using reclaimed water, check with your regulator to make sure that it is an acceptable practice. Sources of contamination. If you know your irrigation system, you can determine the risk of contamination of the system and work to minimize that risk. There should be a buffer distance between your irrigation water and sources of contamination such as animals, pollution, or untreated manure. There should be 200 feet between untreated manure and wells, but this distance can change depending on other variables such as the slope of the land. It is also important to assess your neighbor's property for potential contamination issues on your land. If they raise livestock, their runoff could be contaminating your crops. System maintenance. By doing routine maintenance on your irrigation system, you can make sure that inappropriate materials such as plant matter, trash, and animal carcasses are not contaminating your water sources. Filtration and disinfection systems also minimize the risk of contamination. Well heads should be free from cracks in the concrete. Wells should be designed to prevent contamination, and closed wells should be sealed and protected. Irrigation systems should include check valves, anti-siphon devices, or other backflow prevention systems to prevent chemicals injected into the system from flowing back into the well, back into surface water, or onto discharge land. Unused irrigation equipment should be stored in a clean environment that is free of pests. Areas beyond your property may cause problems also, so it's important to check that land too. For example, if you use surface water from a stream or canal, look upstream for potential concerns. When and where to collect a water sample. Routine microbial water testing, including generic E. coli, should occur on all water sources. Samples should be taken as close to the point of use as possible. It's good practice to check the water at your well and runoff from your fields also. Water sample testing frequency depends on the type of water source. There are no requirements to test water from municipal or public water systems as long as the results or certificates of compliance are kept from the municipality or public water systems. Sampling should be conducted throughout the year, especially throughout the growing season. Number of water samples required. For surface water, an initial 20 samples need to be collected over 2 to 4 years. After that, 5 samples need to be collected each year. For groundwater, an initial 4 samples need to be collected over 1 year. After that, 1 sample needs to be collected each year. Water sampling documentation, SOPs and logs. Document procedures on how water samples are collected and how they are identified. Your written procedures should include what to do if unsuitable or abnormal water results are found. If the water does not meet these criteria, corrective actions are required as soon as possible. There are 3 corrective action options. 1. Re-inspect the water, remove any identifiable hazards, and retest the water. 2. Follow the microbial die-off rate method in Table 5 of the WSU 5 log. This method allows time for potentially dangerous microbes to die off in the field between last irrigation and harvest from sunlight and changes in moisture, temperature, pH, or other factors. The maximum number of days you need to wait using this method is 4 consecutive days. Or 3, treating the water using chlorination or a similar method. The WSU 5 log calculates these values automatically based on the water test results entered. Follow the standard limits unless your buyers or regulators require otherwise. If your buyers or regulators have different testing requirements, follow their guidelines. How to collect a water sample. Step 1. Gather your supplies. First, organize your supplies. Most contract labs will provide a 100 milliliter sterile container with a snap or screw-capped lid for sampling. Label the bottle with the location or where exactly the water sample was collected. Also include the date, time of collection, and the initials of the person taking the sample. If you are collecting from a spigot or shunt valve, turn on the water to the highest possible flow for 4 minutes and then turn it off. Wipe the inside of the spigot or valve opening with a 10% bleach solution and let it sit for 1 minute before collecting the sample. Your lab may recommend other methods for sanitizing like flame torching or chemical washing, but bleaching is acceptable. How to collect a water sample. Step 2. Take a water sample. Turn the water to a moderate, steady flow. In order to prevent dust, soil, or other debris from contacting the sample container, keep the container closed until the sample is ready to collect. Do not touch the underside of the bottle lid, the bottle lip, or the inside of the bottle at any time. Do not rinse the bottle before filling and look for the fill line or 100 milliliter mark. It is important to fill the bottle past this line for an accurate sample analysis. If the bottle does not have a mark and the contract lab did not provide instructions, fill the bottle to the top. Replace the lid and wipe the outside of the container with a clean paper towel. If you are collecting samples from multiple sources like different wells, spigots, or valves, make sure that you wash your hands and use gloves before collecting each sample to avoid contamination. How to collect a water sample. Step 3. Transport the sample. The samples should be placed on ice immediately after collection. Samples should be received by the contract lab within 30 hours for groundwater and 8 hours for surface water, or according to the lab's directions. Samples should be tested for generic E. coli or for what your buyers or regulators require. Water source and use, WSU, forms. WSU 4-6 SOPs and WSU 4-6 logs. Your written food safety plan should include an SOP on irrigation water maintenance and inspections, as well as a log documenting that these inspections occur regularly. Your written food safety plan should include an SOP for water sampling, which should include corrective actions for unacceptable water testing results. You should also include a log documenting your water test results and corrective actions. If you use municipal water, you should be provided with water testing results by the municipality, like Cal Water's Chico or Oroville district. These reports should be kept for your records. If you use a daily disinfection system, you should have an SOP included in your plan and monitoring logs completed at least on a daily basis. Any major contamination requiring well shocking should be recorded in your log. All of your water safety information should be available for review and should be kept for 3 years. Samples of all of these documents can be found on our website. Just remember to update the content so that it has the correct information for your farm. Remember, taking these steps to protect your produce from contaminated water will help you meet buyer requirements, will make consumers more confident in the produce they are purchasing from you, and will help improve the safety of our food system. All food safety policies and procedures should be developed using national, state, and local guidelines. Therefore, no responsibility is assumed or implied by CSU Chico Research Foundation or CSU Chico.